The next question is, right of movement and residence throughout the territory of India are freely available to Indian citizens, but these are not absolute. Comment. So we will be introducing, okay, we are having certain rights, but these are absolute but subject to reasonable restrictions. So begin by talking about that. In Constitution, Article 19(1)(d) and 19(1)(e) respectively says about the right to move freely and right to reside in any part of the country. But this is having restrictions based on Article 19(5), which says that in the interest of public order, morality and security, state can impose reasonable restrictions. So what are the grounds in which state will be imposing reasonable restrictions? For instance, if you take the case of Kar Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh in 1963, Supreme Court recognized that. Normally we know that Supreme Court always advocates for rights, give them rights like that. But in 1963, in Kar Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh, Supreme Court recognized that people cannot be allowed to move freely always, but state must have used their authority to place restrictions in the ground of maintaining public order and security, national security. That means, while considering individual rights, safeguarding the larger community's well-being is also required. For example, you consider the movement of a terrorist. In the context of public order and national security, his movements must be controlled, right? So for safeguarding the larger interest of the community's well-being, this must be controlled. That was said by Supreme Court in Kar Singh versus Uttar Pradesh in 1963. So we, in the case of national security, can control this movement. Now you take the case of public health and emergency. Like if you want to safeguard the larger community's well-being, that is not only in the context of public order or terrorism, but even health issue. Like we have seen during the COVID pandemic, people's mobility were temporarily limited because through lockdown and all, to contain the spread of the virus. Now this is an emergency. This was due to an emergency. This lockdown was made and temporary restriction in the mobility was kept. But permanently to some areas, this kind of mobility and residence is restricted. These are the areas of indigenous people or tribals. So to preserve their unique culture, traditions, identity, etc., people like foreigners or external people cannot be allowed to enter into these tribal areas. So we have certain acts like Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006, or you can say that Forest Right Act 2006. If you cannot remember the entire name, but it's always ideal. This is very simple, like Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006. So this is for preventing the foreigners entry to this area. Now what will happen if we allow the foreigners to enter in this area? One thing, it will be destroying the unique culture and traditions of the indigenous people. Apart from that, these people will be, these external elements that are entering this area will be aiding or abetting unusual activities. Like they may cause insurgency, they may pay money to supply weapons, etc., to cause insurgency against the country. So that need to be curtailed. So that's why these people, like another reason why people are prevented from entering this area, that is restriction to prevent unlawful activities, right? Restriction to prevent unlawful activities. So yeah, that's why to prevent unlawful activities as well, we are restricting the people. Then till now we have more or less told about the mobility of the people. Now according to Article 19(1)(e), we can restrict the residence in certain cases. That means state can purchase the property of a particular person. Maybe he will be having a house over there, or he will be having an agricultural field or any other thing. Like normally apart from agricultural property, if that's a special case, the normal residential property or any other commercial property, state can prevent the residence of that particular individual in that area. Maybe that is the proposed site for a railway line or an airport or any other public welfare establishment. So in that case, by paying the compensation, state can acquire the land. That means the residence of that particular individual in that area is limited. So we have discussed sufficient cases. Now we can conclude suitably that though the citizens' autonomy and identity are vital, the rights of women and residents within India are vital to citizens' autonomy and identity. To have this autonomy and identity, people must be allowed free movement and residence. But these rights are not absolute. In the context of public order, security, health, cultural preservation, and the broader well-being of the society, we have to restrict the movement of certain persons. This nuanced approach reflects the delicate balance between individual liberties and collective welfare. So it's a tussle between individual liberty and the collective welfare of the nation. So what all things we have discussed, we have introduced by saying that rights are there, but it's not absolute. Then we'll say constitutional provisions of that. So we'll start discussing then different cases in which these are applied. In what we have discussed that, okay, in the interest of public order. So in the interest of public order, we discussed about the case of Karachi versus State of Uttar Pradesh in 1963, where Supreme Court itself said that public order or national security is very important, so people's movement must be controlled by the state authority by placing the restrictions. Now, that is in the interest of the larger community's well-being. A certain people's mobility is controlled, and whether it is only in the case of this national order or national security, it is controlled. No, it's in the context of public health and welfare as well. You can say the example of lockdowns during COVID-19 to contain the spread of the virus. Temporary limitations on the rights of mobility and residence of the people were kept. Now, that was an emergency, but even during normal times as well, to certain areas, to preserve the cultural heritage and tribal lives, entry of external people to this area or non-tribal people to enter this area is restricted. So to ensuring that we have scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers, recognition of Forest Right Act 2006 is there. Apart from this, how to connect this point with the next point, we are preventing foreigners from entering this area, not only to protect the culture of these tribals, but also to prevent the people from doing or abetting unlawful activities like insurgency, etc. So this is more or less about the mobility of the people. Now, in certain cases, according to Article 19(1)(e), state can prevent an individual or individuals to reside on a certain property to advance the greater public interest, like maybe construction of a railway line or airport, etc. In that case, state can acquire the land by paying the compensation in a fair manner. So that's also there. That's possible because of the restrictions under Article 19(5). Under Article 19(5). Then, so you conclude by saying that, okay, though the right to free movement and residence is vital for citizens' autonomy and identity, but that has to be kept under certain restrictions in the times to ensure that public order, security, health, cultural preservation, broader well-being of the society, etc. are kept. So this nuanced approach, this careful nuanced approach reflects the delicate balance between individual liberties and collective welfare of the nation. Why it's a delicate balance? Excess of anything is harmful. So with that, we will be winding up. Thank you.